Alright, welcome back to another Star Wars video. Today we're going to be ranking the best lightsaber duelists during the Skywalker saga. This means we will only cover material from the very beginning of the Skywalker saga timeline, starting with the events of the Tales of the Jedi and finishing with the end of the Rise of Skywalker. This video will only cover characters who were present in that time and who we've seen in the movies or the TV shows, meaning characters like Darth Krayt, Cal Kestis, and Starkiller will not be present in the rankings, even if they do deserve a spot where characters like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader may be granted an upper hand due to their uncanon yet still credible power and their heavy association with the rest of the saga. Also, even though I've given those characters a benefit, characters such as Anakin Skywalker at his quote full potential won't be included, as something like this is immeasurable in power. As we get into the video, I ask that you keep an open mind, as some of your favorite characters may not make it onto this tier list. The ranking was made solely off of facts and no bias influenced this tier list at all. But with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the rankings. Just making it onto this tier list, at the bottom of the Skillful tier, I have Kylo Ren. Ren adopted his preferred saber form as influence from his master, Luke Skywalker, and his life hero, Darth Vader. He was a proficient user of Form 5, dem so, using extremely fast, powerful, and dominating sweeps and strikes and footwork like no other Padawan his master had ever seen to best his enemies. Although we got little to no attention towards Kylo Ren's training, we do know that he was apprenticed to the most powerful Jedi of his generation, Luke Skywalker, and performed leaps ahead of his peers at Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy. Training nearly from birth under one of the most skillful Jedi in history had its many perks for Kylo Ren. Next up, at the top of the Skillful tier, I have Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn was quite an experienced user of Form 4, Ataru, which he took after his master Count Dooku's master, Yoda. This form was known as the Aggression form invented by the Jedi Order. This form was best suited to be used in open spaces, which unfortunately was the cause of his demise. Because of the limiting space during his fight with Darth Maul, Ataru was lackluster in the circumstances he was faced in. Although, being trained by one of the best duelists in the galaxy had its benefits. Regardless of his performance against Maul, he was still a feared opponent for the rest of the growing Jedi to be faced against him while training. Now, onto the Impeccable tier. I have Darth Maul and Ahsoka Tano. Now, because of their incredibly even battle in the Season 7 of the Clone Wars, it is difficult to put one over the other, but for the sake of ranking them, I've decided to pair them together. They are both very aggressive in their standoffs, with Ahsoka using Form 5, much like her master, and Maul using Form 7, Juyo, the most aggressive and unpredictable lightsaber form. Both were trained by extremely skilled saber users, Ahsoka trained by Anakin Skywalker, and Maul by Darth Sidious, and grew in their orders as somewhat of a tool, with both of them being used for a higher power's dirty work, and then in the end, treated like dirt. Either way, they both put up incredible skills, being one of Star Wars' perfect matches. And if you have your own thoughts on who's better, comment down below and we can discuss it more in depth one-on-one. Now, onto the next tier, the Councilman, where I'll be going more in depth with the characters and their battle history. This tier is basically a placeholder for the characters that are better duelists than those below them, but not quite at the level of those above. At the bottom of the tier, I have General Grievous. Originally, Grievous was purposefully made not to oppose Vader as a cyborg Jedi killer, and as a result was made more agile and insect-like instead. Grievous was originally trained for Form Jar Kai. Some other notable practitioners of Jar Kai are Ahsoka Tano, Asajj Ventress, and even Darth Sidious, although he is more commonly known to have used Form Mach-Shi, or Form 2. During the Battle of Hypori, General Grievous battled 6 Jedi synchronously, many of which were members of the Jedi High Council. He has many recorded victories over powerful Jedi and their companions, with very few leaving the fight alive. Next up, I have Jedi Master Plo Koon. Regardless of his rather fragile biological build, much like the rest of his species, the Kel Dor, Plo Koon was an exceptional performer and remarkable duelist. He was a prominent user of both Shin and Demso both form 5 styles, mainly as a way to quickly eliminate his opponents. In fact, Plo Koon is the only Jedi to ever defeat Jedi Grandmaster Yoda in a spar. Plo Koon is also one of the few Jedi to use and even be taught how to use Electric Judgment, a rare light side form of Sith lightning, which was only taught to the most trustworthy, strong, and wise Jedi, and was forbidden as a common practice, as it was seen as an aggressive, dark, and hateful form of attack, which was feared by the Jedi, such as Yoda, as it was a very quick way to the dark side of the Force. At the front of the Councilman tier, we have Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi is an extremely assertive, yet well-contained Jedi, who over the years has earned the title of the Master of Form 3, Sorisu. Sorisu is used as an energy-efficient and consistency-based form that revolves around the focus and well-based defense technique, commonly used as a way to outlast an opponent in terms of stamina. He is also the only Jedi to battle with General Grievous and come out on top, killing him in a rather uncivilized way. During his final moments as Qui-Gon Jinn's Padawan before Qui-Gon's tragic death in Episode 1, Kenobi was able to make a name for himself in the Jedi Order as the only Jedi to contest and defeat the first recorded Sith Lord in over 1,000 years. Unlike the rest of the galaxy, Kenobi was able to go toe-to-toe with a conflicted and enraged Anakin Skywalker, or rather named Darth Vader at this point, and come out on top, which has been said by the creator of Star Wars himself, George Lucas, to be a feat only Obi-Wan could achieve, with consideration of Anakin's emotional confliction when faced against Obi-Wan in those final moments. Not only was Obi-Wan able to defeat Vader at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but he was also able to best the Chosen One once more during the time gap between Episode 3 and Episode 4, during which was Obi-Wan's last moments of belief that Anakin Skywalker lived on, which I've made a video about recently. If you're interested, click the card in the top right corner to watch the video. Moving to a grander position, we have the next tier that I've called Grandmaster. This tier is for characters who have all made a name for themselves as some of the greatest duelists to have ever lived, and who have all come in conflict with each other, one way or another. For our first member on this tier, I have Count Dooku. Although Count Dooku is widely considered to be the best duelist by a majority of the Star Wars fanbase, it is important to take into consideration his defeats, as well as those who have statistically or considerably have more of an edge. Nevertheless, he is still predominantly known for his exceptionally elegant use and mastery of Makashi, or Form 2, which I discussed a bit earlier in the video when going over General Grievous. Dooku was a Padawan to Jedi Grandmaster Yoda, and Master to Qui-Gon Jinn. Count Dooku was also one of the 2 Jedi who have ever defeated the Deputy Grandmaster Mace Windu, with the only other Jedi to defeat Mace Windu being Yoda. That is an extreme feat that Dooku was able to reach. Consistent victories over the Jedi from Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, up until his saddening death against Anakin Skywalker, comfortably places him into this category alongside some of the greatest to have ever wielded a lightsaber. Ahead of Count Dooku on this tier list, I've placed Darth Sidious. Right away, this is easily one of the most simple decisions I had to make when creating this list. While seeing lightsabers as a cowardice weapon and a fool's tool that he only used to mock the Jedi, he is still one of the greatest to ever use one, regardless of his preference to use his powers in the Force. Darth Sidious is one of the few duelists to have mastered all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, although, like Darth Maul, his preference lied with Form 7, Juyo. However, what made him so unique was his constant change in forms to whatever suited his counterpart most, which continuously forced his opponents into a containment of confusion which he loved to use against them. His culmination of every past Sith was something that he always made sure to his counterpart. Regardless of his minimal saber duels outside of his trainings, his intense speed and immaculate accuracy with the blade allowed him to embarrass his Jedi opposites, something that he'd make sure to feed off of at any point that came to him. It is said that his intense speed was the downfall of many of his opponents, and his favorite to use, taking them out in a blur, defeating them so quickly that they could barely feel the pain of their saber wounds. Something that he had learned from Darth Bane was his technique, or rather, showmanship. He was taught never to fight at his peak skill level, as this would keep him from revealing his true pinnacle of power, giving his opponents a false sense of hope to overcome him as a threat. This containment of power is something that has led many to believe he purposefully lost his fight against Mace Windu in Revenge of the Sith, as a way to force Anakin into making a choice he can no longer come back from. Although, that theory has no influence on this list. As I said before, there is no personal bias that has come in the way of this ranking. Next on our list, yet very interchangeable with the last two, is Mace Windu. Windu was an exceptional duelist, defeating some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, as I said prior, one of those being Darth Sidious. Windu is one of the most unique Jedi of his time, creating his own saber form, Vaapad. Vaapad is similar to Juyo, as it combines all 7 forms of lightsaber combat. It is most used in quick and deadly attacks to overthrow your enemies, influenced by the Vaapad species who would use this against their prey. While being slightly lesser than Yoda at lightsaber dueling, he was still on top of the rest of the Jedi in dueling, with no defeats until his demise at the end of Revenge of the Sith. His destruction of over 100,000 Type 1 battle droids throughout the Clone Wars, and his title as Champion of the Jedi Council, as well as his nearly unstoppable dueling abilities, is what places him here on this list. Moving swiftly on and finalizing our Grandmaster tier list, we have the Grandmaster himself, Yoda. Unlike his origins, his feats and impressive combat skills were very well known, placing him just barely below our top duelist in the Skywalker saga. Being named the Grandmaster of the Jedi Order and Master of Ataru, Form 4, with many other Jedi considering Yoda to be the greatest swordsman of all time, is quite the resume. But you don't reach that peak without making a name for yourself beforehand. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sidious already beat Yoda at the end of their battle in the Senate Chamber. How could it be above him? Well, yes, he did. But in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which is canon, it is believed that Sidious was either disarmed or discarded his saber away, meaning Sidious had to fall back on his Force abilities, where he was the superior in order to defeat Yoda. This implies that Sidious recognized his inevitable defeat to Yoda in a saber battle, meaning Yoda had defeated him there, just not in the whole fight. A very minimal number of beings could defeat an expert who was so intelligent in his dueling, spending 800 years perfecting his connection to his form. Now remember what I said, Yoda's Form 4, Ataru, performs over most others in open playing fields, meaning an open area like the Senate Chamber was perfect for Yoda, and he was only defeated once both Yoda and Sidious had resorted to their powers in the Force. During the Clone Wars, even though he had focused more on his diplomatic duties as the Jedi Grandmaster, and stayed clear of lightsaber combat, Yoda was still able to hold his own when necessary, and did so perfectly almost every single time. Before I get into my top tier, I want to give an honorable mention to the man himself, Darth Vader. If I had to put him anywhere, somewhere around these two top tiers would be his destination for me, but throughout the years we have seen so many different forms of Vader, where performance is immeasurable, as well as mediocre, mostly due to the lack of crazy stunts and saber battles during the original trilogy, unlike what we've seen with the Clone Wars and the prequel trilogy. If you have your own opinion on where Vader should go, let me know down in the comments below, but anyways, let's get back to the rankings. Now, for the top of the tier rankings, I have the tier Unmatched. This tier is for characters who I don't see losing to anybody. Remember what I said earlier about not including characters like Full Potential Anakin? Well, ignore that, because my first character on this list is just that. Anakin reached a point in Revenge of the Sith where he was able to create his own fighting style during his fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Using all 7 forms, he chose the best route to go in a moment's notice, depending on where he and Kenobi were and what he was trying to do to him. Unlike any character we've ever seen, Anakin was crafting his own form without even having to focus on it, coming to his motions naturally. And even though he lost that battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi, it is due to his arrogance, prominently pushed through from his dark side. With the Sith being the narcissistic and egotistical force wielders that they are, Anakin was no different to this. Without hesitation, his first instinct was to jump over Kenobi and slice through him, just as he had done to Maul. It was the only way that he saw fit of killing Obi-Wan, and his thought of, nobody in the galaxy can defeat me. I'm the most powerful being there is, even the Chancellor. I can overthrow him with ease, had clouded his mind. But if Anakin had become successful in using Kenobi's move against him, what if Anakin had succeeded in defeating Kenobi? Well, here's the most likely case of what Anakin would have become. According to George Lucas, Anakin would have reached a level twice as powerful as the Emperor, and pretty quickly at that, meaning he would be the most powerful Jedi, or Sith who had ever lived. He'd be able to shoot force lightning so strong it would incinerate his enemies into ash within seconds. He'd be able to deflect any force attack that was thrown at him. He could heal himself at his will, meaning he could be almost immortal. Although, none of these compared to his ability to tell the future, an ability that he had applied before the events of becoming Vader, an ability that he had lost after his defeat on Mustafar to Kenobi. Using these abilities of Force Lightning, Force Deflection, Force Drain, Force Heal, and Precognition, they would undoubtedly make Anakin Skywalker the greatest duelist in the history of the Star Wars universe. And finally, the character you've been waiting to know, the greatest duelist in the Skywalker saga, Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. Grandmaster Luke is definitely a contender when it comes to the potential of the most powerful being in the galaxy. There is always an argument to be made in favor of either Grandmaster Luke or Full Potential Anakin, for who would be the most powerful in all of Star Wars, which is why I myself won't be putting one ahead of the other, regardless of my own personal belief. Grandmaster Luke was said by George Lucas to have reached the full potential of the Chosen One. Also, the rest of this information on Luke is mostly uncanon, so forget what I said a little bit earlier about all of this information being canon. But anyways, by the end of his days, Luke was known to be the greatest duelist in the Jedi Order and the greatest duelist that the Jedi Order had ever seen. But not to skip so far ahead, let's go back to Bespin. Back during the events of Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, the inexperienced and undertrained Luke Skywalker was able to land a hit on Darth Vader's shoulder, and accounting for Darth Vader's reaction to the hit, we can tell that he was hit in an open area between his armor, right onto his flesh. And to skip ahead to Episode 6, Luke was able to defeat his father with his own Demso saber form, and even impressing Sidious. Later in life, Luke mastered Form 5, and even said that the secret to utilizing it was compassion. After this, he ended up mastering and combining Forms 3 Surisu, Forms 5 Demso, and a variant of Form 7 Vipod, creating an assemblance of all three. This new fighting style was said to be impossible to defeat, and after stalemating the young Dark Empire Sidious, he would emerge victorious in a battle so intense, Leia had said that Luke was like a flash. The movements were so intense she could hardly see him move. The only thing she was able to sense was the titanic waves of power coming from both the light and the dark. Later on, he would encounter many Yuzhong-Vong warriors, moving as one with the Force, as if his blade were dozens of Jedi at once. After defeating the warriors, Luke beat 5 different Slayers, while another Jedi of their time said he could not see them at all. After this, Luke defeated Shimra Germain, who was said to be the best of the Yuzhong-Vong warriors. Following this, Luke would later go on to defeat a strike team of those lost of the Sith, coming out on top against 15 Sith warriors at the same exact time. Following the words of George Lucas, not only is Jedi Grandmaster Luke Skywalker the most powerful Jedi or Sith to have ever lived, but also the greatest duelist of all time. After learning the feats of Jedi Grandmaster Luke, it is difficult to come to a conclusion as to who in the Unmatched tier would be placed above the other between him and Full Potential Anakin, and the argument for either side of who the most powerful and the greatest duelist to have ever lived in Star Wars will forever be a debate for the ages. Well, that does it for this video. If you had any thoughts on the tier list, let me know down below in the comments, as I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. If you enjoyed it, it'd mean a lot if you liked the video and subscribed with notifications on so that you know every single time that I upload a video. If you yourself have any topics that you would like to see, tell me down below, as I'd love to know what you all want to see next, no matter what fictional universe they may be based in. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and may the Force be with you.